Good morning, good morning. We have a special guest today. Hello, Rose. Say hello, everyone. Say hello, say hello. So we're going to be talking to Warren Beaton pretty soon. So he's waiting for Warren to jump on, and we'll get this show on the road. So, hello, Rose. Here, will just join us for a little bit until Angela wakes up. Then we'll here we go and hang out by ourselves. Hope you guys doing well today. It's a beautiful summer day in Wellington here today. The wind is blowing and it's pretty wet. So yeah, looking forward to talk to Warren, talk to him about all his amazing jobs that he's worked on. He's done quite a few of them, so we're definitely gonna try to touch on most of them as we can. Yep, he's right here. So see Warren invite. Yeah, hope you guys doing well. Just chilling out here with little Rose for a little bit, and then her mum will come pick her up soon. There he is.
Ah,
Hello, you go. Look, yeah, we got a special
hey,
guest for a little bit. Ah, there she is.
no. Well,
So welcome,
so yeah.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks. And you think it's windy down there? Wow, up here as the building is just rattling on its foundations. It's
Oh,
yeah, full on maelstrom. It's pretty cool.
you gotta love it. Anyway, you want to introduce yourself to the guys who just don't know who Warren is? Go, Warren, do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Well, for anyone who don't know what I do and things, well, I've been working with Santa for years. Right there. And basically, I've been working in special effects for about closing in on 40 years now. Doing things like the first Power Rangers movie, creating monsters and creatures and things, and Lord of the Rings, doing jack of all trades, including mucus and birthing sacs and stuff. Matrix and Dark City and Ultraman and lots of schlocky films and stuff, and yeah, costumes and props and all that stuff.
All the cool stuff. All the cool stuff.
Yeah, basically, yeah, just well, solving problems.
Yeah.
That's my drug of choice. Because yeah, basically, usually I'm the bunny who doesn't say no. You come in and oh yeah, it's bitten me in the bum so many times because you'll come into a film and say, right, great, we're going to make crazy monsters like on Ultraman. Back that was wow, 33 years ago in
Wow.
Sydney, doing 10,
Yeah.
10 episodes of Ultraman, and I thought, right, I volunteered because I thought I was going to do big rubber suit monsters and hey, punch ups and stuff. Yeah, terrific. And Paul Nicole, the effects director, suddenly said, hey, well, we're going to save a lot of money by a factor of like 27 by making everything 1/3 scale puppets of the creatures and
Oh,
monsters. And it's like, well, what, 3 by 3 by 3, that's 1/27th of the weight of everything. Okay. But thing is, the Japanese really didn't like it for doing all these things. And
yeah.
of course, I realized that they would have volunteered, they needed someone who could basically create a perfect, realistic 1/3 scale Ultraman, only 2 feet
Yeah.
high, with all the martial art trademarks, moves and things that
Yeah.
Ultraman does.
Yeah.
And so that lumped onto my shoulders because I also studied prosthetics and artificial limbs as
Yeah.
a prosthetist orthotist way back in the early 80s as part of my Jedi training. So spent many months building a cable operated lovely little thing. Even I think I talked to Doug Beswick, who was like, no, no, stop motion only. You're on your own. Good luck. And yeah, but that was kind of crazy. But in the end, there's probably a couple of scenes using that. But the Super Raya in the end decided, no,
Mm.
we want men in suits. So we got to build rubber suited monsters and stuff. And
Yeah.
I built one around myself.
Oh, you
Oh,
have to.
actually, oh yeah, well yeah, because I got a friend took a body cast of me,
Yeah.
and we built this huge aquatic creature, sort of half whale elephant with a tail and dinosaur thing, called Kudara, and
Yeah.
it was huge, a 6-inch thick A1730 soft foam and
Wow.
skinned. And I filled it out okay, huge claws. But when we shipped it to South Australia, my friends Steve and Vicky were managing on set. The stunt guy was, they said, we need someone who's 6'2", and the stunt guy was 5'2".
Oh,
And so instead of Kadara being like, ah, big hands, it was like, oh, oh, oh,
uh,
oh, stubby arms. And
no,
it
yes.
looked hilarious.
So,
And
you guys get the design of the monsters, or you do your own? Do they just give you free range? So do you get the design from the designers first, or you have free
oh yeah,
range
yeah.
for your?
The designs are pretty much locked in stone because they're
Mm,
in most cases, like on Ultraman, the illustrators came up with their particular things, and we had a little bit of leeway as to how we're going to create it.
yeah,
Uh, Not with Gudis and all the other creatures, but yeah, then and that's the case in most films, unless you're lucky enough to sort of be there at the genesis and go
yeah,
through, like on the Power Rangers movie when they'd changed actually. A friend of mine, Steve Wang, basically was set to direct the very first Power Rangers movie. He pulled out,
yeah,
and so Fox, well, they were just starting a presence in Sydney. They were getting ready to build their studio, and they owned the land to build it on.
mm,
And so I thought, right, let's bring the whole production to Sydney. And new director Brian Spicer and John Landau, who was running Fox at the time, he's James Cameron's producer now on that
yeah,
giant Smurfs in the Forest movies. Um, basically, he also came out, and so look, I worked with John, and I realized when I read the script that they had this character Ivan Ooze, and Ted Van
mm,
Duren, the concept artist who was just doing quick pencil drawings, he'd drawn something that looked like Dame Edna Everage, for those Australian character fans,
yeah.
Barry Humphrey's character with opera house glasses and lumps on his head. I was like, whoa.
Ooh,
And
okay.
but I just read the script. I thought, I know exactly what he should look like, and did
Mm,
this quick sketch, stuck it on the fax machine to LA. But oh, great, terrific! Change the nose. I thought, why?
mm,
He looks like an angry old Jewish man. Oh, why does that matter? Oh, because Heinz the man who owns Power Rangers is an angry old Jewish man. And oh, okay. So I gave them 7 different noses and put the original drawing as like about number 6 or 7, and
yeah,
well 12 I think. And so they
yeah,
said, oh yeah, we'll go for number 7, which was the first drawing. And
mm,
so but we cast Paul Freeman,
yeah.
there's Belloc from the guy in white, Dr. Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Wow.
and he was when I first saw the test tape that was flown over from France, I think the Fox Scouts just stick script in front of something,
Yeah.
and I thought he was perfect. Although he did tell me later he just finished shooting on a TV commercial. He's in his hotel. This fellow turns up with a script, and well, I had just imbibed 2 very very big joints. Uh, and so I was a bit off my cracker. And I'm glad he was because he's
It
just
helps.
over the top. And so, yeah, we end up doing all well, I designed the prosthetics, but we got his head cast ahead of time.
Yeah.
And myself and Belinda Villani did all the lovely sculpting and multi-piece appliances. And Steve and Vicky, running Studio Kite at the time, were incredibly tolerant of my crazy shenanigans with it, but we ended up doing a lot of monsters for the film too.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when Paul first arrived to have his makeup done, he was reclining on the production said, oh, he's just got off the plane, he's just having a little snooze out on the lawn, so sort of a banana chair, and this
Yeah.
guy with the patches over his eyes
Yeah.
lying there without a shirt in the sun. And I just thought, oh, you poor guy, the things I'm about to torture you with for the next few months. And so, channeling my best Ren and Stimpy voice, I looked down and said, oh, the things I'm gonna do to you.
That's awesome.
And then he flipped his glasses up, saying, oh, you must be Warren. They
Oh,
warned
dude.
me.
Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome.
and we got on
Um,
terrifically from there on. But yeah, but that production was kind of cool because we got on the bottom floor
Yeah.
as they needed creatures. The gatekeepers, I did
Yeah.
sketches for them, and the bone monster that comes alive in the forest.
Yeah.
In Phaedos, they needed a 10-minute section to get from point A to point B. And
Yeah.
so we had a meeting, John Landau, and go, well, what could they be in danger of? And my friend Steve was next to me and said, well, we could do some big sort of just skeleton monster or something in a bone graveyard that comes to life there.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk to me. And like we've got like 3 or 4 weeks to build and articulate and bring this thing to life before the shots need to be done. And this is Christmas. And so I'm like, and they say, yeah, we can do this with cables and rods and stuff. And I sunk under the table,
Oh
literally.
no.
Just go, oh God, oh God. And John Landau popped his head under the table and said, it's okay, Warren, it's just a bad dream. It's a fun guy to work with. So, but I
Yeah.
end up doing just first sketch, right? Build that thing, and yeah.
It must be cool
Go,
though to like. It must be like. I mean, like, but that's the film industry like back in the days to the T, where you like, you can get given a problem and you just have to pretty much just do it, and it's
yeah,
quite cool.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Things have changed. It's much more procedural these days,
Yeah.
unless you're on very low budget films or
Yeah.
will sculpt things for food type movies.
Yeah.
And at the beginning too. That's why it's still great to get involved in independent films and that, because you get to do just really off the wall things and really do it, make it your own. And the fact that we now have these amazing little devices that we can just 4K in your pocket and editing
Yeah.
everything right and become a filmmaker with the most
Yeah.
incredible equipment of all time available to us. Like DaVinci Pro, free professional grade Hollywood editing and so on.
Wow. Is it?
That now on just literally home computer, we can make our own epics and train ourselves to be the next generations of directors.
Yeah. That's what I say to guys all the time when they go to conventions. They ask me, how do I get work in creative workshop or in the film industry? And I will say, just
Yeah,
get your friends, get your friends together. Get about 10 of guys together. You can hang out.
yeah,
You can make a movie. That's how it should be. And you can just do your own. No one to
yeah.
answer to.
Well, exactly. Well, like years ago, that's when a lot of us were lamenting having to augment so many digital creations. And
Hmm.
when Duncan was with us, he was like, "Man, we so got to do like a really dodgy men in rubber suit punch up monster movie
Yeah,
and put our Weta Workshop name onto it." And a lot of us were, he had half of us going off half cocked and ready to make rubber monster suits.
that's awesome.
But yeah, that would have been pretty awesome.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
man.
one day, who knows? We might be able to talk Richard into it if he lives long enough and gets dementia. Yeah, shall I make rubber suit monsters?
Well, I'm sure if he could, he would. If
Yeah,
he would definitely would love to do all this crazy stuff if he could do it. That's for sure.
yeah. And that,
So anyway, you want to tell the story how you got yourself to Weta, how that happened?
oh my God, yeah. That's a long road too. I guess.
Yeah,
Well, the final junction, old friend Ben Hawker is just
yeah.
like, as everyone who used to know him said, he was like a Labrador puppy that discovered crack cocaine. Uh, basically, because he's like, oh my God, and he
Yeah,
had no off button. But
yeah,
yeah, well, he was kind of made an apprentice back in Studio Kite in Sydney at the Fox Studios, and
yeah.
we worked on The Matrix together, and oh God, he had to make all Keanu Reeves's all the membranes to go over the pods for the
Ah,
building thing, where he's and I had to engineer what became 8,000 liters of goo for all the stuff and all the connectors that glue onto poor Keanu and things. But and oh yeah, actually a few projects. Also making Mrs. Hoggett's inflatable clown suit on Babe 2,
oh,
Big in the City,
that's awesome.
as you do,
Yeah,
and a lot of gags for that film. And so, but and I'd sort of known Richard and Tanya kind of on and off the years before, because I
mm,
first came to Wellington back in
yeah.
1989 doing a little animatronic puppet creature for What Is Spaghetti called Getty.
Oh, oh,
Uh,
that's right.
it was yeah, man, this gruff little Alf meets ET character, and and all the crew kept saying, "Hey, you've got to hook up with this crazy guy Peter, who's making this splatter film, Bad Taste, literally out of his bedroom at his mum and dad's place." And there's Richard and Tanya who are doing, literally making stuff on top of their bed and these puppets for public eye. And and eventually I hooked up with them both. But yeah, it's in the late 90s when things started going ahead. Ben was, an obsessive sculptor and things. Also, held the record for he could be in the polyurethane room and mixing chemicals all day and would not get a drop on him. Every jar would go back and like, what the heck? Someone committed a neatness.
Really?
And foam latex, he never ever had a bad run of foam latex. Just saying.
Some people were lucky.
His glory. But anyway, we sculpted. He'd drawn and then he sculpted this beautiful version of Gollum because he had this rock that he kept since he was a kid, and he sculpted on that. And so I helped him mold it and cast it, and did airbrushing with all the veins and stuff, at final color with him. And so with that, he wanted it to basically. That was going to be his presentation piece to Weta, and it so happened a friend of Ben's sold Peter Jackson his house over in Seatoon over there, and was the Tuesday in a couple of weeks or something was going to have dinner around with Fran and Peter, and he was a friend of Ben's dad. So anyway, sent that to him. He arrived and early, and Peter wasn't home from work yet. I said, "Oh, that's cute. We'll put it on the coffee table." They left to go get beer because they'd ran out of beer or something. Peter came home, saw this on the table, and oh my God. And when they got back, he was obsessed with this little Gollum thing. And so, and they said, "Okay, send this to Richard, get this guy over here." So they brought Ben over. And then for the next weeks, he would call me literally every day and get Richard calling me, come over. And I was like a little reluctant at first. And then I had a very, very, very long series of telephone calls with Richard. And I thought, well, okay, well, I've got to flip the mental coin. And so I was like, yep, okay. Yeah, packed up my whole life into a container of things and came over. And sort of had to, I was really hoping to be on the design team, but as you do, you fit into where this storm is raging. So, yes, sir. They needed animatronics. They needed the birthing sacks figured out for the Urukai. They needed lots of gore and injury rigs, radio control stuff, Hobbit doubles for the stunts, little faces and things, big rigs, and lots of miniature work. So I just jumped into jack of all trades stuff, basically. And stayed for some years. Went back just after we finished for a couple of years to finish daughter Claire and Kathy's Jedi training and that. And but then when their lives are stable, and came back in time to do the Hobbit and everything else, and have stayed ever since.
I know.
I have no at all.
Heavy lift. Obviously, you got to work on those awesome pictures as well, like
that was just every week. Because when I first arrived, I think the very first thing I saw was the Crack of Doom, sitting pretty much exactly where the Weta stage is, where I kind of live at the moment doing the public demos, and I just seeing this thing towering, literally the spires of it touching the ceiling, the top bits of rock, and we'd done a lot of stuff. They were doing miniatures and things, polycarving things, but the fact that they had these wonderful polyurethane hard coat sprayers and giant silicon molds that they'd taken whack off the coastline, all this beautiful grey wacky stone, which I'd never encountered before Wellington. Just the fact that it's so geologically active here, this sedimentary stone, because of the trillions of earthquakes in Wellington historically, the coastline, it fractures off into tiny cubes, and so where it's worn by the waves, instead of looking like wave-worn stuff, you can zoom in and it's fractalized, and so it works at any scale because of the increasing detail as you get close to some sections. And so when you pull a mold of it and foam it up, pull those out,
Yeah.
and then bamboo skewer them together and cut them and foam them. It's a really quick method of building mountains and things. And so we were
Oh, it
churning
sure
out
is.
so much that the level of the things and the skill of model makers. Some who, I mean, there's Paul Van Oman, who had already worked on productions with them, and Bill and Mary McLaughlin, who was heading up miniatures on Lord of the Rings, and John Baxter, who's obsessed with boats and just an amazing model maker. But and they're just churning this stuff out. So I guess my main miniature involvement towards the end of filming was all of 2001 or 2000. I'm just trying to remember. I basically supervising the Isengard miniature, which is we built it on a block of land just near, behind where Consumer Products is, now, just off the road. Yeah, in fact, the storage thing where we keep all our preciouses, all our little miniature collectibles, is built over top of what was this toxic vacant bit of land there. There's Mark Stetson, who was visual effects supervisor up until when I came to Lord of the Rings. Well, he sort of bowed out early and did a lot of the planning. Well, he had allocated, since there was no enclosed studio or anything big enough to hold the Isengard miniature, he just said, no, we'll build it outside in this spot. Great idea, because, not because the winds, if the wind got up more than 30 kilometers an hour, the motion control camera doing all its repeat moves would start going, ka-doing, 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 like a kangaroo over top, and all the pits would be there. And great, you'd be flying over Isengard in a helicopter in a storm kind of shot. It's perfect. But that was kind of awesome because it was 6 months. We had to dig the pits into the ground 2 meters because the ground level came up to my eyeballs, which was great for lighting things up. And we're just building and rebuilding things to camera for all the different shots and the night shots. In fact, night shoots were about half of the run with that. So that was a lot of fun. And the coolest part as well, after doing films for years, is that you get an announcement from Peter, hey, well, the shot that we're planning tomorrow looks like that might be the opening shot for film 2. Like,
no stress.
And we're like, oh my God, make it pretty. And you're sitting in the cinema and it literally, like second shot or something, but like after oh my God, getting misty-eyed. You don't get that very often. But
it's pretty cool to like see your stuff that you worked on so hard on the big screen and people appreciate it.
That's kind of the payoff. Sometimes you're just so tired because if you've just come off production, they've just finished it and edited it like really slap bang, and it's not before the days of very digital effects heavy stuff, which you would get like 8 months a year after you finish filming. Other productions where it's literally just happening straight afterwards. Like I think with Dark City, that was, literally we'd finished last pickup shots and things, and then we're having a crew premiere literally weeks later, and we're all knackered. And in fact, in that I'd created this beautiful brain bug. Pat Totopoulos was sort of creature design and one of the designers on Dark City, and left early to do this crazy film called Godzilla, which he based the design on his pet iguana. But the bugs inside the strangers' heads, basically Pat's concept art just had a picture of a giant cockroach strapped down by a metal strap with 2 big bolts on a wooden floor, which was as this guy throws a knife through this stranger's head, and the knife goes and splits a cockroach into like, whoa, that's funky. But so I redesigned it as this it's a brain-shaped bug where all its carapace and pieces came up and turned it into a skull shape, and its abdomen tucked up. And Alex liked the design, so I made the thing, and we had the top of the stranger's head cut off, did the death scene, animated this gorgeous spider-like thing coming out and dying, and at the crew showing, was where I found out they replace it with a little transparent digital squid with tentacles. And just like, yeah. But you got to, oh yeah, you got to never be too precious about your precious when you're making it in films.
Yeah,
because
I guess
and I guess the biggest takeaway is the fun is in the making of it, as you do all the time. You're like, oh, the thing's finished. Oh, make another thing, because the making is what makes our hearts beat. Yeah.
Oh, it's all about the memory that you get to work on a certain project, which is really cool. Even though it's not being seen, but you still know you made it, and it's always fun to just like. It's fun to talk about later on, because you can have the little behind the scene conversation, little Easter eggs for people to know that, hey, that this didn't work out or this wasn't used, but we made it anyway.
Yeah.
So obviously, yep. Carry on. You go.
Oh yeah. It's combination of that, and also being aware that there are these evil creatures called producers, and even though you get the fun of making something on film, if you're making it and it's likely not to be used, well, you try not to make it. And outside of film budgets, it's we go nuts and experiment and things. This is like at home with Kim. For people who don't know, Kim again is like as Richard Taylor says to any guest who meets Kim, Kim is like a meerkat that escaped from the zoo and discovered coffee. And we met on The Hobbit when I was basically magic. We spend all of our time creating and making stuff, literally. We maybe watching the odd movie or two, but our life is just inventing things and figuring out how to make and create stuff. So
talk about inventing. Talk about Pao Tai. Perfect segue to Pao Tai.
Oh.
Yeah, obviously, I was lucky enough to be able to be one of the first guys to have a little play with it, and it's such an awesome material.
Yeah, that was because that was when we first met you, actually. Because when I first met Kim, she was obsessed with experimenting with concrete and cements and out stuff to try and create. Well, figure the best ways to sculpt things directly for the outdoors, because she created this tree troll. Which is like a lovely what tree beard evolved from Norwegian tree troll, but it was based on her dad, who was a lumberjack who passed on from a stroke, and she had a dream about him. Created this tree troll out of cardboard, tin foil, and paper mache, and the photograph of her in front of it, made with just her and friends in her living room, was what brought her to New Zealand, got her the job with Witter, because Richard loved it so much. But she'd always wanted to rebuild that tree troll in something more permanent that would last outdoors. And so we started experimenting for years. And after many years, in fact, it got to the point where Kim and myself and Richard Taylor would be in the studio on our Saturdays at Witter. As Richard said, oh, let's play mud pies this Saturday, and we're trying different reinforcement methods and things, because Richard loves outdoor sculpture and big art and public art. And we're just trying to figure out different materials, and we get different things in, different fibers and that, and none of them were really working, and no commercially available stuff, too gritty to this and that. And so I thought, well, how hard could it be, to this, because I've been doing chemistry for so many years, formulating things from my own foam latex to whatever, and it's part of my long distant past training of all the things I've done. And so it ended up, that was one part, because we wanted to create something that we could do poly sculpts or tinfoil sculpts, cover, and was set to stone to be permanent. But another thing for me, we had a hiatus in the Hobbit production, and this is, we don't usually tell people a lot, but Peter Jackson's long dead now, so he won't hear this. But I was asked to go and catalogue Peter's collection, which is kind of public knowledge now, because Adam Savage goes in there and sits with him and talks about all this stuff. And so I was just going through with a clipboard and that, and just taking hundreds of measurements. Had to do sketches. I wasn't allowed to take photographs in there. But there was so many props, not just from Lord of the Rings, all of our miniatures and things that we built, but all the things Peter had been collecting over the years. And I was seeing all these wonderful old Hollywood props that were degrading so badly, like the dissection room in Planet of the Apes. Well, Charlton Heston strapped down. Everything looks like it's made out of carved stone by the apes, very organic. But it was made with polyurethane foam and fiberglass, laminated. But it was all peeling at the corners so badly, like, it was going to take a lot of restoration. That's after less than 50 years after they made the things, and they'd been indoors all their storage life. And so I thought, heck, in films we should have something that because that on Lord of the Rings too, everything we made that was outdoors and on location in the forest, the giant heads and ruins were beautiful poly sculpts, like Gary Hunt. Again, you should interview Gary. And Brigitte, and another fellow, I always forget his name. They're a wonderful trio working at Stone Street Studios, but my God, they were churning out so many some they'd miss it on the eyes, but it was such a rush. But churning out these massive poly sculpts in the paint department, throwing paint to age them back to stone. But they could never be left on location, or they'd been torn to bits by these velociraptors called tourists. But that and seeing all these props in storage made me think there's got to be a niche for something that we can add to the filmmaking process to cover over sculptures that do the final thing instead of hard coat polyurethane spraying, which always we discovered after the rings peels, like whether it's even like 5-8 years, it starts to delaminate. And that's where I just started so much experimentation and research over the years. We worked with the Australian government doing freeze-thaw testing and impact testing of my tests to determine the longevity of it, and it was crazy. And built our own 4-point 10-ton flexural modulus bend tester and all sorts of equipment, and till we had something that we felt would really feel like clay and set like stone. And that's the first major project we started working towards. That was Grandpa Dragon, which is now going to where we met you, and you came around and helping out on that.
It's such a cool material. I mean, I made the Naga for my mum's 60th, and that's my first sculpture ever, and it's like massive.
Yeah, that was so cool. And because when you first came to Weta, helping out with Tanya and things, and I thought, hang on, I texted the photo of the Naga to Richard. I said, that's quite good. Then so, that's good. And then 10 minutes later, he said, that's very good. I'll go down and talk to Senate now. And as that sort of snowballed into the whole lot of stuff, and you ended up staying.
Yeah, I mean, the story was I was on Spectral on a 4-day contract, which because extended to about a week. Then that day when you seen that picture, we all got given a white letter. So I was just about to leave the building. Then Richard grabbed me just before I left. Oh, you saw it? Yeah, you want to make the Naga? Yeah. Oh, you're not leaving. I've got a project for you. Okay, sweet.
That was pretty good. That was awesome. Saved by... And sometimes life is so fickle that it hinges on just those little tiny points. So,
that's what I said.
Someone seeing the right thing.
Yeah, that's what I said. Everyone who wants to make a start in the film industry is to volunteer your time. If you find people who make short film, make their own little project, just jump in, help out. You just never know who you meet and you know what's going to happen.
For anyone listening out there, it's like you never know where these little micro decisions of, yes or no, so, I don't have time, but there should always be time. If your friends have a crazy, hairy project, you think, that's a bit, or you think I'd suck at it, especially. It's like, you might suck at it, but you'll be helping doing something. And as Richard says, the other side of suck is sometimes adventure, because you owe it to yourself to try all these little things, because future you will look back And when I look back, it's always those little micro decisions of like, instead of, oh, no, I'm too tired, I just comfy here. No, don't do it. No, they do not lead to the most adventurous and cool parts that you're the proudest. It's like leaping in and going, oh, impossible, weird. Yeah, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And try new stuff, always.
Yeah, always. Obviously when I was at high school, in 1999, you guys started work on Lord of the Rings, and a friend of mine, after we finished high school, he was going to apply to Wizard to work on Lord of the Rings. Also, I never read Lord of the Rings. I don't know what Wizard was. So I went to art school up in Wanganui, and then when the movie came out, the first one came out, I was like kicking myself. Damn it! Why didn't you apply? But that's why from now on, I never said no. I was like, yep, let's go, let's do this.
Yeah.
Because you just never know.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the crazy stuff. Like, it was some of the my biggest things. Well, like I guess with the Matrix too, was I was asked, oh my goodness, because I finished up doing the Power Rangers movie with wonderful friends of mine, Steve Courtley and Chris Murray, who was my mentor on handling high explosives. He's great madman of special effects industry, and also does quarry blasting, military explosives, demolitions and things. And he took me through the mill and encouraged me to get my Powderman certificate of competency and all that stuff outside of movies and in. But and so that's when we had this script floating around for this Matrix movie coming over with it's that guy from Speed, which I hadn't even seen yet, and these two brothers who are just absolutely batshit crazy, and I was like, oh God, do I want to go through another thing? And so Chris's thing was, oh well, it'll involve lots of really hard chemistry, and because there's a scene where the helicopter's shooting out a building and the sprinklers go off and there's 12, there's like 30 centimeters of water and the concrete has to blow out from all the bullets and it has to not float and not hurt the actors. I'm instantly and without hesitation, I'm immediately going experimenting, doing mixing stuff and stuff and kind of even Paul 4 being officially on the things. So, it's just finding your own little challenges in things. Otherwise, I was a little just, completely worn out and a bit over it at the time. But, I'm glad I dived into that one because it was like, okay.
It must be a good feeling, though, to work on something like for the Matrix and the Lord of the Rings, go in with no expectation and then find out years and years later that it became like a cult classic. I mean, it must be a pretty cool feeling to think back. Oh, lucky I did that. I was going to say no to that.
Because in most cases, 99% of the cases when you're working on a film, you don't know that it's going to be this overwhelming classic thing and hit the public zeitgeist and really hit a nerve and grow into its own legend. But the Matrix, there's just lots of complicated wire work and things, and we're so caught up in addressing the individual challenges, just like my friend Leo Henry, Dave Pride, Tad Pride, and the group they were doing the one and only helicopter whacking into the building shot.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
And the preparation for that and the tests and the detonator cord with the side of the building, which was 3 stories tall scale model of the side of the building with tempered glass, they wanted this shockwave going boom, 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 boom out and using detonator cord and things. But there was, they were so totally their minds buried in that. They had no time to think, well, is this going to suck or what? Just giving it your everything. And it's the bonus just happens to be, oh, everyone liked the movie. Oh, cool. Okay, on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It was
But
like
yeah,
it's one of those movies you come out and you make you think about the world. And you come out after the Matrix and you go, "Ooh, are we in the Matrix? Am I plugged in right now?"
yeah. Well, actually, halfway through the movie, we had a halfway party, as you usually do with films. Like, hey, we made it halfway up Everest, and they cut together the lobby scene where, oh, gee whiz, yeah, Conrad and oh my, many of us, my colleagues have passed on, but were implanting hundreds and hundreds, well, actually thousands and thousands of electrically fired bullet hits into polyurethane things. And for the lobby shootout of what we call the apple core rigs, because
Yeah,
it'd be a column with fake tiles and everything else, all the layers and rebar and concrete, and there'd be upwards of 800 bullet hits and it fired in
yeah,
sequence. You know,
wow,
and eat them away till they look like eaten, chewed up apple cores.
yeah,
And yeah, there was all the rigging and stuff. We all knew each other.
mm,
We'd had enough beers and so right, okay, halfway through the party, we're doing a quick screening of the lobby shootout, but
yeah,
no digital stuff, no getting rid of wires or anything
yeah,
else, just raw camera footage on a rough edit
yeah,
and no music. And so it was like, okay, there's Keanu, Carrie, check, and you're doing all the guns, we're all, and then when they start doing all the cartwheels and stuff, we're all, the clip finished
yeah,
and there was silence. There was no big erupting of like, hey, we did it. It
yeah,
was like
yeah,
awkward because it was so clunky. We're like, oh, this is going to need a lot of work to make this work because it's like, it looks so pretentious.
mm,
It's like a high school kid, like, look, I'm trying to do this impossible stuff. It was so
mm,
ballsy and pretentious, but not quite well edited together, just really rough.
mm,
Excuse me. That we all thought, well, this movie is going to either completely suck or it will be the greatest thing of all time. And
yeah,
so we're at this weird juncture, all of us discussing it afterwards.
mm,
That wow, we just didn't know what it was
mm,
going to be like because that just told us, yeah, it could have been both.
yeah,
And so I guess it's a lot of luck, but then a lot of heart from the digital effects people, the guys at Animalogic, especially at City, early Weta digital sort of prototype company. And I think, yeah, Andrew Jackson, old friend, still, no, Murray Pope was running it for a while and then Andrew,
mm,
but yeah. Anyway, but they pulled off so much magic to actually make everything work with
yeah.
all the digital elements and the sentinels and things. And
Oh, those Sentinels, such a cool design. Those love those designs for the Sentinels. It's so
yeah,
cool.
actually, gee, whiz, I forgot. Oh, they're tucked away downstairs. We've still got a
Yeah,
great big chunk of sentinel and
yeah, yeah,
the claw, one of the closed foam claws for
yeah,
punching through what's his tummy and all that
yeah,
sitting downstairs. I forgot to bring up.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, the design of those ships are pretty cool as well, and it's such a beautiful design movie. It's really nice.
Yeah. Oh, and that was the yeah, and just walking through all the stuff, we did get a sense of it because even like the Nebuchadnezzar,
Mm,
the interiors of it was so beautifully crusty and worn. It looked like that ship had been around for 50 years
mm,
in the sewers because there was this lichen and stuff and old like dank, and you felt it. And we just eat lunch and just wander through the ship and the sets. And at night time, if there's no one around, just sit in the chairs with all the monitors around you. And
yeah,
because even though it was, clunky idea, it just looked so damned cool to have, um, you know, LCD monitors back then were like, whoa,
oh,
expensive. They were
mm,
10-inch laptop monitors, but they made it
yeah,
work. And because everything was kind of just bolted together and grungy and
yeah,
such a good feel that one thing that growing up in the Sydney film industry through the 80s, that scenic artists and that just cut their teeth on really schlocky productions. There's one with Rutger Hauer, Salute of the Jugger, we did
yeah.
back in 1986, 87.
Well,
Um, post-apocalyptic world with battles and huge big chambers and things, kind of like very early Dune feel to it.
mm,
But the Billy Malcolm, one of my friends way back then, do not park your car within a mile of where Billy's painting, or it and everything around there. Yeah, well, get paint on it, because he was just splatter stuff. He was the master of rust and grunge, and on that movie, and the sets were building for an early version of Total Recall back in '86, I think. It's where I was first working with Tremont, I think.
Was it? Wow.
But yeah, so we're all in the model department, and we'd wander
Yeah.
around seeing the sets being built around Sydney. We're doing most of the miniature stuff. Warner Brothers Movie World, or what became that, the first soundstage was being built in
Oh, okay.
Queensland by
Yeah.
De Laurentiis's company, and Patrick Swayze was going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger's role
Was it?
just
Wow.
as Quaid going to Mars. And
Yeah.
so it was a whole different thing. But then the big stock market crash of 1987 happened, and Dino De Laurentiis hadn't locked the money into an Australian account, and he was pulled the plug on the whole thing, and it collapsed.
Oh.
And Arnie was ready and bought the script and got his friend Paul Verhoeven to direct and redid it all. But but anyway, the painting on all these things way back then was another one called Something Is Out There, a two-part telly movie where we had to build a three-story, tall prison starship, and I was basically in the end thrown in charge of doing the designing and building the bridge of this starship.
That's cool. Yeah.
Which was really cool, very grungy, like where this xenomorph alien escapes from prison and down into Earth and starts killing people on Earth, and murder mystery with aliens. And got to work with Marion Diabo, ex-Bond girl, and Penthouse Pinnacle, and she was absolutely delightful. And and a lot of big and small miniature stuff and things, but. Lots of telly calls with the likes of John Dykstra, who was doing the miniatures and motion control versions of the alien drop ships in LA, and we had to build me and Marcus and crew and Herman were doing full-size drop ships to go into to actually crane down and land and take off in the Kernil Sandhills near Sydney, cool. Which was supposed to be the desert outside of LA or something.
Yeah.
And
Like,
God, all this stuff. I haven't thought about this stuff for years. All snowballing back through all these goddamn movies from the 80s.
But is there a movie that you've seen that you go, man, I wish I could work on that movie? Is there something that you've seen, you're like, oh, that looks so cool. I wish I was there to.
Yeah, oh my, hell yeah. There's so many. Like to this day, 2001: A Space Odyssey. A big lament of my life is I've always wanted to work with Douglas Trumbull. Who was one of the lead special effects supervisors. Him and his dad, Don Trumbull, on 2001, back in 1966, 1967. Yes, I was only a kid way back then, but that movie, when I first saw it, just influenced me so much because, I was thinking, well, there's these man apes in the beginning, but these are guys in suits and they're baring their teeth back. And until then, the only movie gorillas would be Charlie Gamora and all the old 1930s and Ray Crash Corrigan in gorilla suits in just things that just go with their mouths, and that was that big clunky unrealistic things. These guys had some realism, but also the ships and the lighting, because I as a kid I would eat, breathe and sleep the space program, which got me picked on because I lived in Engadine, this very football-centric little tin pot town way south of Sydney in the middle of nowhere, and dreaming about space and monsters and special effects. Well, you get picked on if it's not football. Yeah, kid. But but 2001, just that was a life changer for me, because for back then to just absolutely 100% feel that you were on this shuttle heading towards the space station, or seeing the Ares 1B ship. Okay, I'm taking this lone guy to the moon as just like a routine shuttle thing with the stewardesses and trays and things like, that space flight was common. and that I felt that was so thoroughly depicted what the future was going to be, which wasn't. But it was just perfect, and the scale of things. The story, forget about the story, hell. But, having an AI computer, but the ships and the way everything looked felt so much like you were out there in space. That I either wanted to work in space for real, seeing that film, or as my careers advisor at high school said, well, yeah, you've grown up in the wrong part of the world to work for NASA. So, perhaps do it all for pretend. But, there was no special effects then. But I thought, no, flipping the coin, I settled upon doing it all for pretend and trained myself up to do special effects.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, like these days, you're on stage in a winter tour, inspiring the next generation as Doc Tinfoil. So how did that came about? Like tinfoil sculpting, also you like the master.
Again, this is how one little thing can snowball, and you never know where that will change your life direction. Because when I was first, Kim was on stage making guinea pig Middle Earth, these incredible things out of Palpire for Richard Taylor. A version based on Middle Earth loosely. Because someone from New Line heard about this. Hey, are you guys making Middle Earth with guinea pigs? What's in this? And so we had to call it something else. And Tanya was really, really worried about that. But Kim and Zach Johnson as well, and others helping her. And
that was the first job that I got safe to do. That was quite cool.
So they were finishing up on that. Well, Kim was being pulled off into another thing for Weta, and she asked if I could just fill in for like a week or two on stage. And I had a bunch of projects going, but I was like, oh, okay. And so she said, well, okay, we'll do some. Alicia, who was running things, said, well, we really like some Halloween heads for around the Weta Cave. And I thought, oh, okay, you got me in there. So I thought, well, because I was very rough on, I didn't use tinfoil much except on Kim's projects. And so she gave me a quick little, right, we'll do the tinfoil heads for them. And she had been doing a quick demo of making like a bird or something out of tinfoil and hot glue, how to start sculpture with tinfoil. And so, I started on there. We were making a Frankenstein head. Well, I think first one was Krampus and Frankenstein, and the heads are still there to this day. And so I thought, well, yes, I could do a bird or something, but I figured, well, what's the quickest way of doing something? So that, always start with the skull when you're doing most sculptures. So I figured, well, we'll do a tinfoil skull. And I went through fork, knife, and that, and discovered that, here we go. Oh, whoa, malfunctions. So using this teaspoon, this one started off, it's even got, was on there, stamped on it. Basically, this, I discovered that is just the ultimate little sculpting tool for tinfoil. And so I started doing little tiny King Kongs and skulls and so on. And I realized, hey, this could lead to something now. But apart from just doing big sculptures and Weta projects on stage, but I realized it hit a chord with people because most people have, oh my God, it's in the kitchen, a roll of tinfoil sitting in the cupboard. And so when you practice something and not just get better, but change it and try different things, this became a little experimenting test bed for me to just see what does register with people. And most visitors to Weta have no intention of going home and becoming sculptors or model makers or digital art or any creative anything, because they've got lives to lead, and which has nothing to do with that. And one of the biggest reasons I discovered is that a lot of people are worried that they're going, like, I can't do that. Well, of course you can't right now. I can't make this bottle or whatever, or that object, or be creative, because there's that barrier. And you think I'd suck at it. And so I realized that's one of the most important things, to actually encourage people to do something voluntarily that they know they're going to suck at, and just give it a go. Please make sure you suck, not just suck. Make sure you really Suck it. The Johnson tinfoil do the worst sculpture ever done in human history. Chuck it away, recycle it, and then do another one straight away. And just do it for the sake of doing it. After a few times, you'll be wondering, what was I worried about? You know, that you're not great. You may not get great, but you'll get a little bit better. But you'll lose your fear of sucking at stuff, especially doing creative things. And because that's what you and I have said. You're not afraid to try something new that you might suck at, and you find your strengths in different things, but just building up that little habit of trying new shit. Oh, edit that out. Trying new shit and sucking, but different things all the time. Well, then that's where you start to find the things that you go, oh my God, how have I missed this? And you'll come across things only by doing that. And so that's why being on stage at WED has been great. Where I'm a lifelong maker, and that has me head down, tail up, focusing on the job at hand, creating, solving. But on the stage, it's like that's been my whole thing, to find how can we as makers influence people to make that little leap of faith within themselves to just be creative and make cool stuff and go off and make a little creative difference to the world. And
it's so great with family, with kids as well. You know, the mums and dads go in the kitchen, get some tinfoil and some teaspoon. Let the kids go wild. You know, it's not an expensive material. We have to go to an art store, buy some sculpting clay and buy sculpting tools, which could cost into the hundreds. Where tinfoil, just go to the kitchen, help yourself.
It's just there all the time. You nearly know that, like the past few years, only been like probably one handful of people who don't keep tinfoil because they've never thought of it. So everyone always has tinfoil in their kitchen. And you're right, because and everyone knows a friend who says, "Oh, midlife crisis. I've decided to take up painting. So I've just bought a set of paints and a canvas. Oh, I'm getting the brushes. And I've just discovered I need an easel. Okay, and all these excuses to lay them on, and then." And I had a friend back in Sydney who's like, and she'd done all this. Then she said, "Oh, well, my husband's building me a shed in the backyard now so I can paint in it." Like, wow. But you still haven't started painting? No. And that it's been 2 years, Meryl. But with that, there are no excuses. It takes away them all because it's shiny and you sculpt it up. So,
And what's so great? I love how you just throw it away. Oh, this one's crap. Just chuck it away. I remember.
And that's the thing, because that's the most important thing, to not be precious about stuff. Well, like when you, for quite a long while, you're doing a drawing a day, every single day, relentlessly, because again, this stuff is just paper. You know, these things are cheap with a lot of, and you can fill a visual diary, but they don't take up a lot of storage space. And the same with throwing away the tinfoil things. It's not about keeping every single one. It's what you're training these 3D printers on the end of your arms to do. That's the whole thing, and improving you as your journey, because we're just animated little bits of dust who think we're sentient and have souls and live in a tiny little existence. And by the end of it, it's really cool to come through and go, wow, I really achieved something, but I've left something behind and affected people. And that's the main part. Whoa, getting all existential.
I know. Well, what's quite funny, because when I made that Moai head on the stage, and we have to move it out of the station to the car park for the client. We found all your tinfoil. I remember everyone. I wasn't there for that, but they opened the roller door and all these skulls rolled out onto the. We're like, there you are, and that's where they've gone to.
Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah,
that was quite funny.
So that's how the moniker Doc Tinfoil came around. And I guess that's the message I'm trying to get around, because I used to think, well, getting kids more interested in science and things, but in a way, doing the whole tinfoil thing and activating creativity that way
Yeah.
in both adults and kids and that around the world. Well, hell, that sparks the same set of neurons and your curiosity and your reasoning and so on. But and to do that with a ball of tinfoil, your visual cortex, your motor neurons, everything else are interlinking in ways that we normal everyday life and using a phone doesn't give you.
Yeah.
And so that actually does change your brain chemistry and therefore changes people's pathways, but brain pathways and the existential life pathways
Yeah,
at the same
guess
time.
that's one not issue, but one problem we have with these days. Everything's all focused on 3D printers, and every time I get family talking to me, oh, my kid's he's 9, he loves making stuff. What printers do I buy? I said, don't buy a 3D printer. Get tinfoil, get cardboard, get stuff that's free. Let the kids have to
Yeah,
play with that. And then I go, oh,
yeah.
but they give me the weird look. But this is where the technology is going. Yeah, it is, but you have to start small. Start small,
Oh, yeah.
start basic, and then slowly
Because
build your skills up.
because you become a slave to a technology trap.
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
a wonderful series. If I don't know whether you've watched it. It's called Connections.
Yeah,
Made in 1979. Wow, I mean that's 43 years ago by this great guy. He's still kicking, James Burke, who used to be the BBC's official science reporter,
yeah,
reporting the moon landings in 1969 and so on. But he begins by just interlinking great inventions throughout time. That's what the series is about. How unrelated inventors or people who just create something lead
mm,
to things like from a touchstone thousands of years ago leads to interplanetary space travel and compressing liquid hydrogen and oxygen for rocket fuel and so on. But his whole thing is a lot of it, everything we do, if the power goes out permanently, how do you survive in a technology trap? Not just being trapped in an elevator,
mm,
but how do you do the things? How do you milk a cow? How do you plant seed? How do you self-sustain, create life from scratch to still live
yeah,
without the things that we take for granted? And one of the things is, yes, the 3D printers and very high-end computers and that. Well, just imagine we don't have that. Well, how do you do the basics? Well, tinfoil we also need, but the skills you develop from these very basic making things and take that path instead of the quantum leap to go, boom, okay, use this program in digital sculpting and printing and modeling. Well, having all those other skills mean that you're a much better problem solver in the real world, and you've got all the little bridging bits in your mind, connected things to solve all those things in between. And that's where I guess I have an advantage from, doing a lot of making stuff. But I was building, well, one of the things I did after high school was work for a company that built mainframe computers in the late
yeah,
70s from Digital Equipment Corporation and Dick Smith Electronics and so on. And learning from which capacitors and diodes and things from electronics from the word go, and digital gates. And so I have a fairly good understanding of every tiny step from great big huge valve components right down to the inner workings of quantum Josephson junction based microprocessors, which are coming up shortly to
yeah,
also give us quantum computing.
yeah,
And but without following the steps in between of manual things of manipulating with cardboard, tinfoil, wire, welding, woodwork, clay, all these things, you lose out on this great richness and tapestry of life,
yeah,
instead of just focusing on one digital thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I would say like it's good to learn the practical sides before you start doing
yeah,
digital, because
yeah.
when you sculpt, when you make something, you can see it.
Yeah, but also, well, for example, on Lord of the Rings, the great thing from the late 90s onwards at Weta, next to Peter Lyons, our little cinema we shall not talk about to the rest of the world in the Weta.
Yeah,
But we used to have rushes there, 6 o'clock to 6:30 every night, brushes from the day's shooting around the country would be processed up the road, boom, brought in, and just run the projector. And with first in, fire up the popcorn machine.
Yeah.
And since I was in I shared benches with Peter Lyon. Well, pretty much be one of us in there.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, I just one day we had some digital things. We're running basically the scene with Gandalf and Bilbo sitting on the step and
Yep.
blowing smoke rings, and Bilbo
Yep.
blows a smoke ring, and then Gandalf does his ship, and this smoke goes out and it goes, and it was the most unnatural, horrible thing ever. And the three guys sitting next to us, with Richard and myself, had spent the last 2 years kind of unsupervised working on this shot. And in a lovely program called Houdini, which is light user head, but it's one of the earliest particle simulators, good for water, smoke, organic things. But and the projector turned off, and Richard just paused. He was just absolutely quiet for 30 seconds. He said, "My question to you three is, at any time during the last 2 years, have any of you bothered to film somebody blowing smoke rings?" And they looked at each other. They're three American nerds. Why? No, we never did. No, sorry. And he just got up quietly and just said, well, it's good to know while I'm digging myself out of the financial quagmire I'm in where the money goes," and walked out. Whoa, I've never seen him so pissed. But that's a good example, because like, I know what I'm doing. I'm a god. Well, never be so cocky to realize that there are things that are missing in your knowledge. And if they'd just thought that thought during 2 years, get some real world stuff in and blow some smoke rings, water stuff, film, look at how that works really for real, what we're doing. Well, that will help enrich that stuff.
Yeah.
And so always try to cross over to the practical stuff.
Sometimes the simplest idea is the best idea.
Sometimes but that was early days, though, because constantly, especially at Wedded Digital, a lot of people. Gino has been fantastic in that too, because he's got his little, his area at the back of Record Press and workshop where he still does physical things, and he was instrumental in helping nurture that culture within Winter Digital of bringing the real tangible things back, and just really getting that real world data from things of how to do it better, and it's really showed.
Yeah, man. Wow, it's been an hour, Warren. This has been a good talk.
Oh my God!
I know. Thank you for
Oh,
joining
gee
me
whiz!
today.
Yeah,
I know.
we waffle on a bit.
I know. We keep me go all day. I love hearing Warren's story. Remember, like when we first met, he used to go to your house and listen to you and Kim just talk about all the old memories you guys used to work on cool films. It's really good to have a chat about that and share with the rest of the world as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
And yeah.
Oh, yeah,
right,
absolutely.
And we'll see you at the workshop. We'll see you next time.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Sarah. That was
Warren.
pretty awesome, man. Okay. Catch you later.
See you soon. See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
You too. Hey.
Yeah. Bye.
Oh, I got to find out how to turn it off now. Wait, I hit the.
Wait. There's the cross button up the top. And look like Warren's going. Awesome, guys. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. As I said, Warren is an absolute legend. He's done so many cool things, and it's always great to share those stories that inspired me and to inspire you guys to hopefully go out there and make cool stuff as well. So if you're home now, go get some tin foil and some teaspoon and make yourself some crazy sculptures. All right. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. I've got someone planned for maybe next week or the week after, and we'll catch you on next Instagram live talk. All right.